Good evening, everyone. Call our regular council meeting for Thursday, March 14th to order. Just remind everyone real quickly that now would be a great time to make sure your phone is on silent, or et cetera. Next item is roll call. George.
Councilor Mark Eastman.
Here.
Councilor Paul Gobbin.
Here.
Councilor Tracy Hare.
Here.
Mayor Paul Bissonnette.
Here.
Councilor Daniel Ormsby.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Bishop.
Here.
Councilor Ed Rankin.
Here.
Thank you. Next is presentation of any town council recognitions. We don't have any this evening.
I would like to take a moment to note that longtime town employee that we recognized just 6 months ago at his retirement unfortunately passed away this week, Mike McGinnis. So if you keep his family in your thoughts, that would be greatly appreciated. It's unfortunate, just 6 months ago he retired and he passed away this week. Mike McGinnis.
Absolutely, thank you. Very sorry to hear that. Next item is to consider minutes of previous meetings. I will assume everyone's had a chance to review the town council meeting minutes from February the 22nd.
Motion to approve. Second.
Second, all those in favor? Opposed? Thanks. Next is receive and review correspondence. We have 3 items. We have the Verona police call from January the 31st, 2024. We have the Down East Transportation ridership reports from both January and February of this year. Any questions on those? Thank you. Next, we have ordinances to consider or introduce. We will take this up when we have a public hearing later on in this meeting, but the ordinance that we're considering is this, the second reading is tonight, for amendments to the Town Code Chapter 6 Business Regulations, Sections 2.3 to 2.6. Next is discussion items. The first item there is the goals and objectives priorities.
Everyone turned in their lists, and Mayor Bissonnette has
On his
done a
lunch
whole
break.
spreadsheet and analysis and rankings and come up, which I sent to you all today in an email. I think he can better address.
Sure. I'd be just real quick. I mean, if we took a look at where the votes came, I mean, in terms of the things that we want to make sure that we're staying on top of, 4 out of the 7 of us ranked our highest priority being the waterfront, and I don't think that's a big surprise. Following right behind that, with 3 of the second place votes, for lack of a better way of describing it, are the dams and the landfill and the whole relationship / situation with Bucksport Mill LLC. And those are without question our 2 on that list. I think under the lens of priorities that we have that we want to make sure as a council we're staying on top of. Those are without question the 2 things that stick out more than anything else. And then I think if you were to say, well, let's take a look at 5 things. After that, you'd have all of the conversation around recreation, all of the conversation around the runway we have towards the replacement of the town manager at the end of next year, at the end of 2025. And then the really long runway that we want to take. And then also, I don't think there's any surprise here, inflow and intrusion evaluation for the sewer, as well as the animal shelter and the dog park. I've ranked everything that was on that list, though. I don't think there are any huge surprises, but basically what I wanted to do is we had our 1 through 5. We had some others that submitted more priorities, which I think is great, and then we ranked them by where they came in for each counselor. And again, I would say those are without question the top 5, and I think things that we can stay on top of, and it also gives us a list of 6 through however many I didn't count. Of things that we can also continue to monitor as well. But certainly can open that up for any conversation. There may be some facts or discussion outside of just the data and the numbers that we want to have as well.
I looked down at the increase in fund limit
that's almost a must to just keep moving forward, because as you know, we voted on an ambulance a couple meetings ago, and those are just going up. From buying police cruisers at my job, those are going up at least 10% a year. So, and it's not going to stop. So we got to make sure that we can still function under that umbrella. I know it probably didn't get as many votes because the other stuff is, but that should be up there.
There are a couple of things I would note on the list. The last year of the retaining wall, that raising the limit, we had talked about that, and staff has taken on the idea that by August we have to have language and ready for the November election for that without the council. It was identified as something that needs to be done this year, but the things that you've highlighted as are things that will require a lot of council work or other input than simply putting something on a ballot or getting the bids for the retaining wall, and making sure we got the grant, which our economic and community development director has taken care of. So the things I think you've highlighted are the things that will require the majority of your work. Some of the other things are staff work, but we need policies on the other items for you in order to be able to carry those things out. So that's there was a kind of a wide cross-section of ideas on that list, some of which are staff-driven and some are council-driven.
Any other questions or comments on that? Great.
I'm good.
Great.
I'm good.
Thank you, everyone, for the work on that. I think that will really set the tone for the things that we consider, probably discuss, if not every meeting, at least once a month as we're moving forward in terms of perhaps even expecting where we are on some of those things. And then again, as we move down the list, we kind of know where we can keep track of some of the things that Sue just described as well, in terms of things that we want to see get done this year but are already in the hands of other people, and there's a considerable amount of progress already being made. So great, thank you. Next is the Bucksport Mill landfill correspondence, and I'll call it response, but they haven't responded to our correspondence just yet. But
There was a letter that crossed yours went out snail mail the same day we received an email letter from Suzanne Miller. You had given the commissioner a date of March 29th for a response to your particular letter. As I put everything, emails, etc., that we had received in the packet from Ms. Miller, including additional questions as to what a timeline looked like and those kind of things. So that information is there. I did have another conversation with Ms. Miller this week about when the DEP would be requiring Bucksport Mill to step up the compliance activities and submit a closure plan for the facility. And it's my understanding from the department that an entity that may have been in discussions with Bucksport Mill has withdrawn their interest in that, and that I believe the department will be requiring that they now move forward with their the other. That's not to say that Bucksport Mill has not indicated that they might have been talking to multiple, but at least one is off the table. So that's what I know.
thank you. Questions?
Did they give you any sense of the type of interest that's coming to them, or in that I know in the letter what they had suggested, but in the conversation, did they disclose who it was that backed out, or the type of?
That wasn't, there was some non-disclosure discussion about that, but the fact that, the entity that had been in discussion that, no longer was.
Sure.
My name's Klaus Hammond.
Come right up if you would, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Klaus Hammond from Orland. Is it fair to ask, since I don't know in this forum, what the status is of the landfill? I've heard a variety of things about leakage and capping and not capping. Is there a way to get a good summary either now, or could you refer me to one?
The landfill was acquired from Verso when Bucksport Mill LLC purchased the former mill property. That landfill's activity since it was acquired has been limited to use for some of the demolition byproduct of the destruction of the mill, but not as much as originally anticipated, because a lot of the concrete and other things is, if you'll notice, has been crushed and is still in piles on the site. It was not put into the landfill because it was considered that it may be used at some point for construction material. Other than that, there's been very little activity in terms of maintenance or care. The information the town has learned over time in its due diligence is that there are significant compliance issues related to the status of some of the monitoring wells, the leaking leachate pond, the closure of the north face, which has not occurred, the dilapidated state of the temporary cover on the facility, and that there had been very little activity at all, and that the last two things Bucksport Mill owns is the water system and the land associated with that, and that landfill, and that it's our understanding that they're looking to divest themselves of both of those entities. And the town was approached, the town did due diligence, the town said no. There's limited choices available. Primarily would involve or need to involve a municipality or a group of municipalities in some way, because there can't be any new commercial landfills developed in Maine. So the only way is to get a municipality or quasi-municipal group to obtain ownership and then allow it to be operated that way. Bucksport has said no, another entity has said no, and the department had asked for a closure plan and remediation of the issues that exist at the site. And they put that off to allow AIM time for this entity that it said it was in negotiations with. That has ended because that negotiation has ended, and so it's my understanding that the DEP will be requesting that they move forward with their original request.
Do we have any sense? I'm hoping that they respond to our letter still
Yes,
by the 29th.
that's right.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, that was-
We had sent a letter.
Yes, the letter that was sent by the mayor, on behalf of the council, gave until the 29th for answers to a whole host of questions in regard to the plans of the department in regard to the landfill. So,
Any other questions or comments? Go.
I'll be brief. Spoke last time, I appreciate it, Bill Tomasco. You know, I feel good about the leadership that the town council has shown in the letter you wrote. I thought that was a great letter. I really liked it. I know that was all of you together. I feel really good about Sue being town manager. She's uniquely qualified of all town managers in the state to deal with this issue, being the head of the board, chair of the board, environmental protection, and dealing with the Hamden landfill. And I feel good about the citizens and the citizen group we've been involved in. We've done forums, we've tried to get people involved, to get people knowledge, so you know, and I think the town is galvanized against this landfill. And I feel better just by what you just told me about this entity that has dropped out, because that's new news.
it's very new news.
Yeah, it's very new news, and so I feel really good about that. I'm still deeply concerned about the DEP in this backroom meeting. And I know you gave them till the 29th, but it's not like getting a paper in high school. You know what I mean? You get a letter from a town about a landfill, it's the top of the pile. It's answered. I don't know if they're passing it around saying, you know, you respond, you respond. You know, that does concern me. And the concern we've already talked about giving AIM options when they had 10 years in an indeterminate amount of time. So I hope is that we all continue on this path, and I talked about attorneys before, I'm not talking about litigating, but my hope is that you have a good, aggressive environmental attorney in the wings to be ready for the scenario is if there is some other entity that pops in, that they're ready to respond. Because we all know how it's obvious about it being close to the Penobscot, being close to Silver Lake, but being ready to say what's bad about that and what's bad about this entity to respond. Thanks.
Thank you, Bill. Any other questions or comments? Don?
Don White, Bucksport. I want to thank everybody involved, including my colleagues who've done a lot of work on this, including everyone up there who's researched this and done this. I think the citizens of Bucksport held 2 public forums. The very first one we had a gentleman who was a former mill employee, and he got up there and told us basically stories of drums and thises and that's, and you can imagine what went into that landfill in its early days and its medium-sized days, basically saying everything kind of went in there. And then there was another gentleman who got up and lives close by, and I see him here in the audience tonight, and I don't know if he will speak or not, but he spoke about some personal items of death of his wife, death of his dog, death of his neighbor. I'm not suggesting by any means that, but he lived close by, and his well had arsenic in it. Arsenic is a very common element in wells in Maine. However, one of the things that we know from the DEP reports is that we have arsenic on the north side, we have arsenic on the south side that has shown movement. What that means, apparently, to learning from my colleague Katrina back there, talking to a state hydrologist, is that arsenic is leaching and it's moving. What I just would like to suggest, that if we ever get to closure and capping of this thing, and there's other messes up there, that pile that has not yet been put into the over permit, whatever they've done, it's a PCB loaded pile. I think you find that in the DEP documents. And there is active leaching right now, as we speak, from that thing, from the landfill itself that's unlined and is going into the leachate pond. The leachate pond is leaking, et cetera. So we've got, there are issues there that aren't just, that could be serious. And I think ethically, in my mind, knowing what I know now about landfills and what people have told me, that I think one of the closure plans should be offering any abutter third-party monitoring of their well. I think that's reasonable. I don't think they should have to pay for it. I'm not saying there's any liabilities or anything else. But if I live close to that thing, I would want my well tested, a good test. I would like, we know PCBs are coming out of those things, and there's other things coming out. I'm not just saying but I think it's a reasonable request to American Iron and Metal, if they are indeed to close the mill, that they pay for anybody who chooses to have wells tested. I think that's a reasonable response. I think it's a difficult one. We all don't want to think about those kind of things, but they happen. And it happens because a gentleman came to us and said, this is what happened to me and to my neighbor. So, and I visited him this week, and spoke to him again about this. So that's a suggestion I have. If we come to fruition and if we come to capping and closing the thing, I think it's a responsible thing that the town should get behind. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. Anyone else?
Thank you. Ralph Chapman, School Street, Bucksport. Just a quick comment about the process from the Department of Environmental Protection. I spoke disparagingly of the appearance of impropriety last meeting. A potential reason for a governmental agency to not respond in writing but to offer to meet is to keep their responses off the record. So my suggestion to you, recognizing that if you meet with the department, it's a public meeting, so it has to be, public has to be notified and allowed to attend. But I would recommend that you record the meeting, voice record the meeting, as a protection for yourselves, so that you don't find yourselves sliding down the slippery slope of corruption, in which the intent of what's called Maine Sunshine Law, or open access law, that is not being defeated. Thank you.
Yep.
All of our meetings are not only voice recorded, they're video recorded, so we record everything we do, so that is a good suggestion, but we do that.
It'll happen. Yep. Anyone else? Sure.
I really wasn't gonna say anything. I'm Patrick Koff. I'm the guy that Don was talking about. And I guess the only thing I'd add to what he said was that I've lived there for Silver Lake Road, over by the boat landing, for 25 years. And initially, when we had all our water tests done and everything, there was no arsenic in the well. And then later on, I can't give you a date, but it's probably within the last 10 or 15 years, something like that. We had the arsenic, arsenic showed up on a test. And we ended up having to put in a remediation system because I believe that the level was around 16 or something, and the threshold was 15 or something like that. You might know what those thresholds are better, Sue, than I do, but I was just tossing that out there. And as for the cancer linkage, who knows? But it is a concern in the back of my mind that it could possibly be an issue. And continue to live there and not that far away, so. And I would add about the testing that I would rather see sooner rather than later, instead of waiting for capping or whatever, because if nothing else, we're getting some background data to know what is. versus what later could be. And it would ease a lot of minds, at least mine, so, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Anything additional from the council? Good, okay. Thank you, everyone. Next item is 45 Pond Street foreclosure, permission to advertise for bids.
45 Pond Street has been vacant for many years. We have no address to be able to contact the record owner. The taxes and sewer have been paid the oldest year every year to keep it out of foreclosure by the USDA. And this year, in December of '23, they did not do it. They didn't pay the oldest year, and the property went into foreclosure. And this is a property in a neighborhood that our code officers said could be salvageable if it isn't allowed to continue to sit there and deteriorate. And so I followed our practice. I notified the USDA, who was the mortgage holder, that they had 30 days to pay all outstanding taxes and costs and sewer, or the town was going to sell the property. They signed for the letter, and I waited an additional 30 days before bringing it to you, but I would like to put this out for bid. As I said, there were several homes in town that were owned by banks that sat vacant for a long time, and 3 of those are now in the process of being rehabbed somewhat through realtors and with those banks, which should help them get them back into habitable condition. But this one I would like permission to put out for bid so that we could get this one back.
Are we gonna have a minimum bid for this?
The minimum bid for this would be about $7,500, which is what's owed to us. The town no longer keeps amounts of money over and above what's owed to it. That there was a Supreme Court decision this past year, I believe, or time flies, it could have been 2 years ago, that indicated that proceeds above and beyond the tax, sewer, interest costs, and any ancillary costs such as securing a property or legal fees related to it or advertising would be given back to the record owner, which in this case we would be sending it to USDA because we don't have any way to contact the owner. It would be up to them to determine what to do with it. But yes, it would be, I think that the outstanding taxes, the outstanding sewer is $2,300 and the outstanding taxes are about $4,800, $4,700. Then the town's cost of advertising it and we have our attorney do a legal review of our documentation to just make sure that our liens are perfected so that whoever it's sold to we haven't made a mistake in our notifications or our process, which is necessary, so there'll be some legal fees associated with that.
So, if I may, in today's Flexport Enterprise, it lists the property as 30 and not 45, so in case the staff or any of you get questions, we run into it already 3 times today.
Well, I feel bad for whoever was 30, they're gonna get a lot of bids.
I think the agenda says 45.
It does, it does, yes.
Do you need a motion?
I would like,
A motion to take 45 Pond Street to auction, or to bid.
Second.
Questions? All's in favor? Opposed? Next, under discussion items, grants received for the town dock project and the community resilience grant.
Mike isn't here, but if he was, we should do a standing ovation for Mr. Rotella and Mr. Ormsby, because we are now the recipients of $4.1 million for the reconstruction of a year-round town dock in the town of Bucksport. And I get goosebumps just being able to say that that's happened, but it happened through a congressional delegation, a congressional designation. We were one of the communities in Maine that received significant funding for that, and we still have our grant application in with the Holtrochem cleanup project, which could significantly augment that, but the heavy lifting for this, and there has been heavy lifting, has been done by this gentleman standing over on the sidelines, so it.
Good job, Rich.
Thank you for your support for the project.
And
5 years.
And I will say that our harbor master, who's been the harbor master for 30-plus years, this has been his dream all 30 of those years, and he's provided a huge amount of information and support in this at all. It is, we've talked about the things that can help us move forward, and how much Bucksport's had to do on its own without anyone giving us anything, and $4.1 million is a good start, and some more from the Holtrochem will be even better, but it's huge for the community. And so that was one of them. And we also, if you remember, we applied to be part of the Community Resilience Partnership. We had the gentleman who came and talked to us, and he said, I think it was Orland and Verona were also going to participate, and I'm happy to report that that 3 community entity is also one of the 13 entities in the state that was granted the grant for that work, which is, I think, it was 75.
Yeah, it's because we're part of a.
The £3, it's 1, 2, 3. There's more money. So that Community Resilience Partnership, which takes a look at things such as what's been happening on our waterfront for the last 3 storms. So I'm very, you can tell, very, very proud of the town staff and all the work they've done, and I'm very thankful that Senator Collins was willing to include us, go to bat for us, and keep us moving through the process when many other projects didn't make it. So, yay us.
I had,
Please. Oh, yes.
a citizen reached out, and they were concerned about the dock project with what's been happening to the waterfront, but to hear about the resilience project coming at the same time is perfect, because then otherwise we need a big insurance policy for the work we're gonna do.
The good thing about the Holtrochem funding is that it can augment the 4.1 to do the engineering necessary to make sure that everything's high enough, and this all is tied together in a big knot, but that has been a consideration, and he's already talked to our engineer about what's going to be necessary.
Through another grant that we got a few months ago, through a SHIP grant as well. So when we had that preliminary meeting, the discussion was, this money's coming through, we need to make sure that that can be protected. So there's 3 grants working on it all at once, so.
What are you gonna do during storms now?
During storms, I'm running. No, I will say the town staff, the public works crew has been amazing. Each and every storm, it's taken a little bit because we need weather to cooperate, but they have cleaned all the way down from Irving down to roughly the marina. And the debris has been, there were 2 one-ton trucks hauled out today worth of debris. Now, we have a serious issue with the bricks from the Dr. Tagan Bridge to right behind Irving. It's serious enough that we can't just put it back this time. We have to build up. So, Jay Lanfer, Matt Pierce, and myself, while we were fixing the, having the fishing pier replaced today, and what I mean was it shifted from the last storm, because the new dock that was constructed by Gardner was tied down, but the original dock was not tied down. Gardner noticed it. They were here for a pre-bid meeting for another project that we're doing, and offered at no charge to the town to help us get it where guide us to get it where it needed to be, and to help us show us how to tie it down. So that has been done today. So the fishing pier is safe, secure, and is back in its location that Gardner had put it to. The bricks, we will have to, in order for use until these grants explain to us what is the best surface, what is the appropriate height, because Commissioner Kelleher wants us all to start building back stronger and taller. We need those answers from the experts. I'm very concerned about the eclipse. We are expected to have a 13.4 high tide.
Oh, wow.
We don't get 13.4 high tide, so any storm can make that worse than anything we've had. The last high tide was a 13.1, which was higher than both of the ones in January.
Wow.
Which you can tell by the destruction. We literally have a sand beach now behind Irving.
Wow.
We're gonna do our
Could that
best.
draw people?
I'm sorry?
Sand Beach could draw people.
Yeah. No, the folks who are gonna run the Bridge of the Gap race have been notified that
Yeah.
we cannot, in good conscience, send anyone down that way. There's no way to have it fixed, and especially if we get another storm during the eclipse with the polarity and the way that the wind's coming east, southeast, that's right in Hurricane Alley.
Yeah. Wow. Perfect time for these grants.
Yes.
Good work.
Rich, just for you and Mike, really quickly, I'll second what the town manager said in that, you know, you're very good about, and the harbor master is too, about making sure to thank Senator Collins and the council for their support. But that support doesn't happen unless you make that support easy for those entities to give it. You did a lot of legwork bringing that to the council. You did a lot of legwork making sure that things were done really, or smoothly, so that it was easy for Senator Collins' office to get behind that. So well done, appreciate it. Just really briefly, there's a discussion item that I've talked about with the town manager that isn't on the agenda. Do I need a motion to add that? Or do you think we?
It's just to mention that we met with a group last time about the Narragansett watershed and I didn't put it on the agenda this week because it was my understanding that we were gonna talk about funding for that during the budget. Is that everyone else's recommendation?
Yes.
Or recommendation?
Recollection?
Memory that,
Yes.
that was, okay. I just wanted to make sure that I hadn't screwed it up and it should have been on the agenda this time.
That is correct. Thank you. All right. Next is agenda items. We have one this evening. It is resolved 2024-41 to approve a one-time donation of $10,000 to the Reach School. The resolve is in your packet.
Most approved.
Second.
Motion and second. Questions, comments? All those in favor? Opposed? Thank you.
I've gotten good feedback from our last meeting that people are happy that we are taking this action or we need to be voting on it, so.
Yes. Seth, if you'd like, yep.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you very much, and it was more than we anticipated, and it really does lighten the load on this group of students and staff who are already spread thin to be able to continue to fundraise in the way that we prefer, to prepare for the next one and not have to come back to you. But it is, we're very appreciative, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Two issues. You don't get very many issues where the talk that I hear, and I'm sure that the rest of us hear, without putting words in any other counselor's mouth, are all one-sided. And so, everything I've heard about the Reach School and everything I've heard about that landfill has all been one-sided, so in terms of the action we took tonight, so thank you, Zach. Next item is resignations, appointments, assignments, and elections. We have one resignation from Taylor Benzie, from the fire department. Any questions on that?
He's going to be running his own business. We're sorry to lose him, because he's very good, but, I believe they're going to be devoting full time to their own business and not to firefighter EMT, so.
Yeah, it was encouraging to see that wasn't a departure from
Oh,
the fire
it-
department. Yep.
Me too.
Yep.
If you're going somewhere, it can be your own business, but don't go down the road to some other town and do it, but we would need a motion to accept that.
Motion to accept.
Second.
Motion second, all those in favor? Opposed? And
If
then
we
we
all
have
voted
the,
opposed, could we,
That's a good question.
We can't take hostages.
and then we also have the presidential primary election results.
Yeah, those are just provided in your packet that
Yep.
were provided by Jackie Hunt.
Next is approval of quitclaims, discharges, and deeds, of which we have none. And after that, we have the town manager report.
We have some more good news, which is we were notified by our attorney today that the court in Ellsworth has upheld the stop work order that was issued by our code enforcement officer at the Spring Fountain Motel. This is an affirmation of, he had issued the stop work order because they were doing work there with no permit, no filed plans, nothing that was part of the requirements of the dangerous building order. And the owner's representative contested that stop work order in court. In the court today, we were notified that the court had ruled in our favor for that stop work order. So the fact that you've painted the outside and hung plant pots doesn't qualify as work. They can paint, they can do demolition. They can't do anything that requires permitting, such as heating, plumbing, electrical, renovation plans, etc. So that was good news. And that goes along with the good news that we received from the second lawsuit that we're involved with in the same owner in federal court, in which a large number of the allegations that were made in that complaint have also been dismissed at the federal level. So while neither of these are final or have reached a final decision, we have had some good news in terms of the things that have been eliminated and the things that have been upheld that we had requested, so that's good. Anyone that went by the town office today knew that repairs were being made to the roof because we lost rows of shingles during the last storm on what I was told was the new section of the roof. So, and also, as you've learned this evening, additional damage was done to the walkway between the bridge and Hannaford. The town crew and Rich Rotella have done an extensive amount of work to open up the Miles Lane trails that had begun to be overgrown so that it was growing in. Crusher dust will be added to improve the walking surface when we are sure that winter is over. Some of us may be lulled into thinking it is, but it is only the middle of March. We still could have it. I will remind you that the second half of property taxes is due by March 31st to avoid interest. And finally, the town appropriates some money annually for the use of programs not operated by the Y. And the Little League, has asked for $1,000 for a set of new bleachers to be put at the Ridge Inn Field to provide adequate seating for fans of both teams that are playing. And there is sufficient funding in the budget for this purpose. We budget for it every year. We don't allocate. A lot of the teams have come under the umbrella of the Y, but Little League hasn't. They've done a lot of work at that field on their own as well, and so I'm just asking if there are any objections to me approving that $1,000 for those additional bleachers
No.
at the Y. It's not in a reserve fund. It's in the general operating budget. I'm just letting you know that would be you see bleachers going up, that's where it came from, and that's why the Little League would be doing it. And for anyone in the audience that doesn't know, I don't have a black eye because I got in a fight. I have a black eye because I had a minor surgical procedure earlier this week, and it's embarrassing enough, but just so that anyone isn't thinking, what did she do now? That's what happened.
Thank you, Sue. Any questions for Sue or any of the other, or on any of the other department head reports? Very good, thank you. Next is to set public hearings or hold public hearings and approval of any licenses or permits. The first item there is the public hearing for the second reading of amendments to the Town Code, Chapter 6, Business Regulations, Sections 2.3 to 2.6. Open the public hearing. Anyone from the public? Anyone from the council?
I had provided you with an email from a vendor who participated in the vendor events, and I had provided you with an email from one of our local businesses who has bricks and mortar on Main Street. Those are the two written things that I got in regard to it.
Hearing nothing. Close the public hearing, and up to item, to 6A, second reading amendments to the Town Code, Chapter 6, Business Regulations, Sections 2.3 to 2.6. How would the council like to proceed?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I think a person in the public missed the public hearing
So
part.
does this have anything to do with what I would be charged for food trucks and whatnot? I'm not familiar with that whole thing that you guys disclosed. You mentioned a vendor that participated at the vendor. And there was some questions on what the council was considering charging per food truck for a for-profit business of $100. So I'm just not sure where you guys are at with that, because I've been waiting to find out if my vendors would be approved for the summer and also the Water World event.
The proposed regulation limits to no more than 4 events by for-profit business in a year, with no more than 1 in any individual month. It requires that food trucks on the waterfront put there by or in an event sponsored by a for-profit business be charged a fee of $100, and there's a regulation that in order for for-profit businesses not to profit off the use of the town's waterfront, that 75% of any fees charged by a for-profit business to a vendor for participation in an event shall be paid to the town. The vendors themselves, the only vendors involved that a minimum charge is food trucks, and that's based on other areas and what we're charged. But if the council wanted to, if it was a day, it was $100. If it was part of a day, if there was some sliding scale that had a minimum of 50 or whatever and
Cause
went
it's
to a.
only 2.5 hours.
Well, that's, I said if there was a
Yeah.
some sliding scale, that's an option that you could look at for things that are smaller periods of time. Yes.
I just wanted to clarify, because I know in our discussions, or at least I believe in our discussions, that your intent was only for events from a for-profit of the same type of event.
That's
So
correct.
like the water slide event and a vendor bender would not, they
They're
could
not
both
the
happen in the
same.
same
That-
month, and they can both be by the same person, and they don't count against the 4 because they're different. Is that
That's correct.
Okay. Just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah,
Thank
the,
you.
the idea was that every single, it wasn't the same, it wasn't a weekly event.
So can I ask?
Yeah, come on up.
So comfortable in these chairs. So can I ask why it went from 2 a month to 4 for the whole year for the vendor benders? Because I was having 2 a month, second and fourth.
It's any entity that is doing, it can't be more than 4 for an entity of the same thing in a year. That was the idea was that doing an every week thing was a use by a for-profit business that disadvantaged bricks and mortar.
So, well, it's not every week, it's 2 a month, so every other week for 2.5 hours each time.
So what we did when we had all these elements that were brought to us is all of us contributed what our thoughts were and the elements that we thought were important to Sue. She took them, mixed them all in, and tried to give everybody something that they wanted, but not everybody everything that they wanted that they got, so that all the different groups, all the different people that want to participate and use the waterfront had the ability to be able to, without the waterfront being overrun by any one specific group or entity, while still showing respect to the people that have a permanent stake in businesses and restaurants on Main Street. So that's what this accomplishes. It's a mixture of everything that needs to happen to function, and it still lets everyone be able to host and participate in the different types of events that represent their interests.
Right, I get that, but I'm just thinking like, right now, there's not much going on. Maybe in the future, more people wanted to do events. I'm just trying to keep things rolling along. And if food truck's a problem with the brick and mortar, how is that, no reflection on you, but a food truck court that's gonna be.
I'm investing money in a property as a business.
Well, that's on his own property for one.
Well, I know, but it's still a food truck because the competition, just like
But
the.
you could do the same thing, Terry. You could go rent a lot or develop a
Well,
lot.
no, but I mean, what I'm saying is that there was people that were complaining that food trucks were competing with their brick and mortar business.
On public-owned land.
Right, that's what we're getting at, is that, is
Okay,
it's
so
the
it wasn't
waterfront.
that, okay, so it wasn't spelled out, which is like food trucks competing with brick and mortar. Okay.
In our land use is
Okay.
what that
So-
rolls with.
All right, so, when will I know if the vendor benders and all that get approved? I still don't know if you guys wanna do a sliding scale for a 2.5 hour, event once a month. 'Cause $100 for food truck, per food truck, and you said there's 4 food trucks max?
I believe so.
So $100, that's a lot, because I only charge $25 for my food trucks. So if I wanted to make anything, since I am a for-profit, I would have to tack on my $25 to their 100 and make it $125 for 2.5 hours.
And that's, our numbers came from, we did from research from other towns, correct?
Other
entities.
Of what other entities charge, so our food trucks not being necessarily located here in Bucksport or based out of Bucksport, going to different places and different events, the
Mhm.
fees are on par with other locations that they would participate in as well.
But are they more hours? I mean, is it,
That I don't know.
see, that's the thing, they're there for a longer period of time and ongoing, so like Salsa Jack is at the Orland Community Center. He pays, I think, a certain amount to be there all week. So I'm kind of like a different situation, I'm 2.5 hours Now it's gonna be just once a month. So I can't expect the food trucks to be paying $100 each for 2.5 hours
Okay.
for 1 day a month.
I honestly never really thought about the time period.
Well, that's why I said if you had, if it was a day, it's X. If it's part of a day, it's Y.
I
you
think
know.
that's what we meant was $100 a day.
So is that based on like
That's
8
kind
hours
of
a
what I
day?
was thinking.
That's what I was
wasn't
thinking
so
too.
like, yeah, it'd be 2.5.
And I don't think it says in the ordinance that a maximum of 4 food
No.
trucks. I think it's a maximum of 4 events.
Yeah.
Maximum
Well,
of 4
no,
events.
but I think at a
Yeah.
past meeting, you guys were talking about a max of 2 or 3 food trucks.
We talked about a lot of things trying to get to this
I know
point.
that's what, oh, and I missed
Yeah.
like the last one, and I was looking for the recording online, I couldn't find it from the last one, so I,
I think when we talked about max of food trucks was like having a food truck spot.
Right,
Remember we were
exactly.
talking about
Yes.
Identified areas.
And
Yes.
we were talking about having an identified area where we could have,
Where the town would be
With-
licensing them
correct.
for their own purposes.
Right.
and that
not-
was another thing you guys were talking about, because the town dock, the ordinance doesn't allow the food trucks, but then you were talking about, Perry's Landing, that was another option, so I'm just trying to catch up to what y'all decided. On where things are gonna,
That doesn't pertain to this at all. This is just the land use tonight.
right, I've been waiting on a decision so I could start, refiguring things, because my sign, at the intersection, is 2nd and 4th Mondays of each month, so now I have to change it to something else. So if it's gonna be like, if it's at Perry's Landing, it's still on the waterfront, but I just need to know, okay, you're gonna be here or you're gonna be there. That's all I'm saying. I just want some finalization on stuff so I can start preparing.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but now that we have these guidelines that we're trying to implement, then you would have to go back and restart you could have to reapply for the event that you want specifically. And then we'd take a look at that and see if that's
I
gonna
would.
fit
Under the
within that
parameters.
time frame.
Yeah.
Yes, within these parameters. Because that's what we're trying to do with all the different people and groups that wanna do these things. We wanna make sure everyone has like I'd said before,
Can
the
I use my
space
same
and,
$20?
I don't know.
What's that?
For the,
My filing fee.
for the application fee, depends on when you did it.
Of course we would, that, you don't have to,
Okay, so when can I expect a sliding scale amount, because then I have to redo
It-
We're gonna have to go back into this.
what's
right?
that?
We're at second reading, are we gonna have to redo?
No, this is the public hearing, 2nd reading. Tonight is adoption, or you table it and move it to the next meeting, and it is,
Would,
I do think she brings a valid point with the sliding scale
I agree.
scenario.
I was gonna say,
can you
if
break
it-
it into fourths or whatever, you go by
thirds,
thirds
even if
or
it's third,
thirds or
it's
quarters
8-hour
or
day is
whatever.
an 8-hour day, and it's how many hours? 3? 3.5?
2.5.
2.5?
Break it in quarters. Yeah.
So, I mean, why can't we do it by $50 for a 4-hour time frame? I mean, why can't we just split
Well,
it
we
in
can't
half
get
and
it down to an hour,
That's what I mean.
Right.
No,
you know.
50
I'm
for a
saying.
4-hour or 8
Yeah,
hours.
50 for 4.
50 for 4 or 100
Up to-
for 8, 100 for 8. Yeah.
50 for up to 4 and 100 for up to 8.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, I think that makes sense. That's
Do you wanna
reasonable, isn't it?
modify this?
Yep.
Do you wanna modify this?
Motion to modify the ordinance.
The fee,
The fee to state, an 8-hour period for $150 for up to 4 hours.
Second.
Right, so that's under 2.3.2, item 10.
Correct.
Yep.
what this would do is that would allow you to apply for 4 vendor benders, 1 in each month. That's what the rules would
Yes.
would do.
Yep.
That's it.
So like for you, your 2.5 hours would cost 50 instead of 100.
Okay.
And you could have it for 4 hours.
Okay.
Expand.
Okay, we need a motion to approve?
and I don't understand it to prevent it from the location that you've had it at. It was only
It was the mention of permanent food food truck locations that,
Right,
that Perry's
yeah,
Landing came up.
yeah.
So
There-
it's still gonna be down there?
It's still in the town dock parking lot.
Okay.
It can't extend onto any land the town
Right.
doesn't own.
Right, so up to like maybe the marina,
The marina is off limits between June and,
To the marina.
yeah, the,
To the
or the drive, the.
if we own,
We own the historical, and I think we own behind Camden, don't we, Rich?
We, we own behind Camden and in front of the marina. Can't be inside the marina parking
Right.
lot.
Right,
That's
no,
where
that's-
Up
it's
to,
capped.
yeah,
Yeah.
up to and all
No.
the.
And then we did a land swap. Remember, we acquired the road that goes to the marina, and in exchange, we gave the land to Catherine James so that she
front.
could be in compliance for her walkway.
Yep.
So, and then on the other side, can't be behind the gazebo, because that's not owned by the town.
Right.
That's owned by, the Ledbetters, and then the railroad tracks own the rest.
So just, okay.
so it's pretty much where you were last year.
Okay.
Anything else? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Next is liquor license renewal for George B. McLeod doing business as McLeod's Restaurant. Any questions? All those in favor?
Motion to approve.
How about a motion? Yeah.
Second.
Thank you. I'm not, yeah. All those in favor? Opposed? Thank you. And next, we have a public hearing for the CDBG grant for Penquist Housing Project. Public hearing. Any question? Rich, go ahead, sorry.
I'm not sure if anyone understands, so thank you to everyone that signed in today. It's a requirement of the state for the CDBG monies. It adds points. The only thing it can do is deduct points if you don't do this correctly, so. Had it ad in the paper for the last 2 weeks, and then of course it's been posted here since February 28th, and then we had the sign-in sheet. What is going on is, the municipality only can apply for CDBG funding, and there's several different categories. This is under the Housing Assistance Grant, and because the town itself does not qualify for CDBG townwide. So Penquist had reached out to the town in partnership to better the Knoxview apartments, make them habitable, add some heat pumps, and they're doing a great job of what they're looking to do with that. So you have in your packet what the application looks like, and the public's welcome to ask any and all questions, and representatives from Penquist are here in attendance as well.
Great. Questions, comments from anyone? Or, yep, sure, absolutely.
My name's Peter Malia. I'm from Penquist, and I've been working with Rich on putting together the letter of intent for the CDBG funding. Did a very good job kind of covering the overall interaction between the town and Penquist. So I just want to speak to the work that we plan to do. We're looking to bring around $600,000 of funds into Knoxview Apartments, $500,000 of which would be from the federal government, $100,000 would be a cash match provided by Penquist. We are looking to do weatherization work at the site, putting heat pumps particularly into the seminary building. The tenants currently pay for their own heat in that building, and it's electric baseboard. It's not very well insulated, so we are really hoping that that would reduce the housing costs for those tenants. We are also looking to handle some deferred maintenance items, notably the siding and the roofs of those family townhouse units on the north side of the property. And that is really the bulk right now. We have to look at the more nitty-gritty numbers, get some contractors to give us quotes on items. There is an RFP component for all the work that we will be doing through the CDBG funding. I'm more than willing to answer any questions, and not just on the CDBG application front, but obviously we purchased a property towards the end of last year. We have 2 new construction projects in our pipeline. Just if there's any questions regarding the work that we are doing, are planning to do, or have done, I'm more than willing to address them.
Would you mind just giving a summary of your timeline, the things that a lot of us already know, but could you just really condense that and just give us just a brief overview of some of your goals and the purpose of what you're doing moving forward, just to get everyone up to speed, just to...
Sure. Well, so for the CDBG funding, the letter of intent to the state ECD is due on the 22nd, and to get the full points associated with that letter of intent, we do need the approval from the town tonight. Thereafter, we work on putting together the full application, which is due May 17th. Thereafter, I don't know offhand the exact timeline for the state to review that application and subsequently award the funding. I don't know, Rich, if you know that offhand. No? But it would probably, I think it's around July 1st is when those funds would actually become available to us. Not 100% sure when on that date though. So thereafter, I believe it's around a 12-month period of time to expend the funds. I'm not 100% certain on that either. But as far as our new development work goes, we've submitted applications to Maine Housing for financing to build 18 units in one project, and then an application to Maine Housing for tax-exempt bond financing and 4% tax credits to build a 40-unit building. Those are both north of where the family units currently are. We don't really have a good timeline on that work because we are just waiting for Maine Housing to respond to our request for funding.
So if those are north of the family units, what are those units you're gonna put in if you refer to those as family units? What are the other units you're gonna be building?
So the 18-unit building is all one bedrooms, and so is the 40-unit building. 40-unit will specifically be for senior households. The 18-unit building, it's all one bedrooms. There's nothing that would dictate that it will be specifically for seniors. But it's all one bedroom units.
Okay. All right, thank you for that.
With the rehabilitation of the ones that are offline, how many units would it bring back online that are now not habitable?
Right, so there is one unit in the seminary building that is completely uninhabitable that we would bring on, and there is one unit in the family complex that does need considerable work in order to be made. Before we would want to put somebody in it. Maybe somebody could say it's habitable. By Penquist's standards, it's not.
And does any of this work need to displace anyone temporarily?
Our plans are not to displace anybody. There are federal regulations regarding the CDBG funding. We plan to not displace anybody and have to deal with that headache at all.
So do we.
I'm not sure if this is the right place, but in response to social media and those who have chosen all manner of things, from this is going to be a drug rehab house to we're going to have buses of illegal aliens coming in to populate these, I just want to be on the record as saying that none of that is true. And for those who are promulgating this fiction on social media, it would be greatly appreciated if you would find another topic, because that is not what any of this has been permitted for, not what the town is supporting, and not what Penquist is doing. We are actually very fortunate that Penquist has chosen to invest here because it will be a well-managed, well-operated facility, and that's based on their track record, not on something they've told us. And if there's anyone who doesn't think it's a good idea, you need to look at me as the responsible party, because I have bugged Penquist for a very long time to look at trying to help us solve some of our senior housing issues and workforce housing for people just starting out. So I just want to go on record as saying that, because I have tried on occasion to provide facts when people want to spew fiction, but some people don't want facts. So, there we go. Emily's.
In addition to that, I wanted to recommend maybe, since, you know, the hearing is being recorded, another rumor has been raising the rent, and some of that is coming from voices of a resident, so that makes it, you know, even harder for the truth. So I just thought, you know, it might be helpful.
None of
as
the
a comment
rents
as
have
well.
been raised for any tenants that were currently living in the building. For those who are recipients of assistance, the assistance portion has been raised in some cases, but that has not impacted, I don't believe, the out-of-pocket for tenants. But new resident rents, I believe, is a different story. Am I close to correct?
Yes, you really kind of hit it perfectly on the head. So a lot of the tenants of that building, I don't want to speak to any specific tenancies, but a lot of the tenants of that building do have Section 8 housing choice vouchers, and we have looked at the rents for those particular units and have communicated with the housing authorities administering those vouchers to increase the rents to the point where we are getting the highest amount of revenue for those particular units without touching the rent share for the tenants, right? So those tenants pay 30% of their adjusted income, and the units can basically be priced up to a certain amount before the tenants has to pay out of pocket above that 30%. That's where we took those to help bring in more revenue for us to be able to address some of the deferred maintenance items. We've put a lot of money into that building since taking it over.
Which was how long ago?
What was that?
How long have you had it?
We've
under
had
your
it since
control?
December 29th.
Okay, so it's just been a few months.
Just a few months, and we've put a considerable amount of money into just deferred maintenance items, a lot.
Yeah.
Creating unpopular policies like not allowing people to smoke in the apartments,
also implemented
which
a
has
no
spawned a
smoking
lot
policy.
of the discontent kind of things on social media, but.
And Councilor Bishop, I can attest to work being done up there when I went to do the interviews and then of course Jason got all the phone calls afterwards of what's going on up there. There was 2 trucks and a van of employees hauling off some stuff that needed to be hauled out of there. So they've been up there doing work, and it's been noticed.
I'm excited to see work being done up there. I was in those buildings several years ago, and I'm excited to see improvement.
Anyone else? I'll simply say I second what you said, and I'll leave it at that. Good. Close the public hearing. There's no action out of that, right?
No, we need a vote.
We need a letter, yeah.
Mo- Motion to
Approve the
yeah, motion
letter
to
of
approve
intent.
the letter of intent.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed?
You need those 4 points.
I knew that. It'll be okay.
You know, what's he did.
All right. Next is discussion of items not on the agenda for the council or the public. Go with the public this evening first.
Hello, everybody.
Excuse me,
My name's Steven
just one
St. Peter.
second.
I'm sorry, thank you.
Sorry.
Mr. Rotella asked that I.
Thank you.
Yep.
Nope, you're good.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Steven St. Peter here. 3 things. I was just on the EV Resource podcast with Zach Hurst. You guys can listen to it on YouTube or any streaming devices. Also, I've been invited to speak at an Earth Day thing at a car dealership that sells electric cars and hybrids. Jesse Lohr, the owner of Greenwave, has invited me to speak there. If I cannot make it, I can do a Zoom presentation. And then the Tesla wall chargers up the road here have seen some business, so just thought I'd let you guys know that the Tesla wall chargers at 83 Franklin Street are being used. So, and that's it.
Steve? Anyone else?
I haven't spoken enough tonight.
Well, yeah, you know.
So just a
Just
reminder.
wants another round of applause.
You are.
You'll-
Well, I am
you'll
gonna
get-
mention, yeah, I am gonna mention some more grants. So
Sure.
please keep in mind the Central Street paving, mill and fill project will start once the plants open and operate. The contract has been signed with Von Thibodeau, and so that's gonna come from Broadway down to Main Street. It's a mill and fill, it's not just your normal pavement, so we'll make sure that that notice gets out so that motorists aren't too badly interrupted. We're also, Sue signed the contract for the DOT. We got another MPI, so we got 2 MPIs at the same time. Those are municipal partnership initiatives. It's for the last 2 remaining walls. You gave us permission to go out to get that, so we're waiting for the bids to go out to the public. It's already been, it'll go out from Over and Associates, and then we'll bring that back to you as well. And those will be the end of it. The SHIP grant, as I mentioned earlier, is going on. We had a meeting with GEI and members of the Waterfront Committee that could attend. We'll be getting started on the Community Resilience grant with our partners in Orland and Verona, and then just waiting to hear back from DC on when the money hits the bank account. And we'll keep our ear open for the Penobscot Estuary Trust Fund. That's where the 4.3 million is located as well. And for those of you who weren't able to attend, 60 folks attended Tuesday night's meeting at McLeod's Restaurant. It was very well done by Lori Gorton. She's a fantastic speaker, and the town partnered with Great Pond Mountain Conservation Trust, Landon and Derek. They did a great job of really getting that out there. So it was very well attended. And if you have a chance to go to any more of their events, they're doing quite a good job, and they're all held at McLeod's.
Great, thank you.
What about the bids for your floats?
Oh, yes, that happened today too. The marina floats that you folks had approved, we had a pre-bid meeting today. The bids will close on Monday, March 25th. We had 3 interested parties there. This project will conclude what's already at the marina. Everything will be new within 3 years in replacing the 25-year-old floats. We did have one request. One float has to be rebuilt prior to the opening of the marina, because we did have one casualty of a float last year, unfortunately. It fell over the water. There was no injuries, but that needs to go there so that we're not displacing anyone. We still have a 2-page waiting list for the marina, but the good news is with the town dock expansion, on the backside there will be floats, and some of the existing ones there, we're going to go down from 22 of those wooden to 10, and those 10 are going to be finger floats for more visitors to town. So,
Real quick, Rich, without holding you to it, I'm just curious if you had an idea of a timeline or time frame for that work on Central Street.
I would say, due to the weather, that we would get an earlier start somewheres at the mid to end of April, beginning of May.
Okay.
But I will assure you it will be all over Facebook and in the newspaper and in your emails.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
Anything else from the public? Council.
I just wanted to bring up a couple of things that Sue has brought up either on social media or tonight here at the meeting. Been walking my dog on the waterfront, the Miles Lane Trail, and I have those bags, little holders on my leash, and we have them all along the waterfront, but it's pure laziness and disrespect as far as I'm concerned. It's made for everybody, and you're gonna hurt it for everybody if people don't start using a little common sense. And that leads me into the social media of, I've had so many people stop into the garage just furious that the town is letting this happen or letting this happen. And they've got it confirmed that this is what's happening, and it's all crap. It's all, there's no fact to it. It's just people spouting off on Facebook. And just please, before people come in and jump all over Sue or jump at one of us, come up and ask us what's going on, or find out for yourself, because if you don't know yet that Facebook is mostly garbage, then you gotta come to that realization real quick. But that's it. A little common sense and respect would go a long way. That's it.
Well said.
Yeah.
You are not on Facebook's payroll.
No, no. I'll jump onto that and say I've received several of the same type of comments, and the state of buildings like Penquis has started to do work on. The things that people are afraid of happening are what happen when entities like Penquis don't step in to get things up to par. So everything that could be going around would be a projection of what would happen if things are not happening the way that they are. So I'm good.
Anyone else? Very good. Thank you. Next, upcoming public hearings, designation of topics for committee assignment, and scheduling of committee meetings. Our next meeting is on the 28th, I believe.
Yes.
We don't have committee meetings, but shortly after that, we start on budget. So I think at one more meeting where you're not here until whenever is probably not a bad idea.
So we might need a services committee, because it's my recollection that a lot of the committees in town expire March twenty 2024, so
Yeah.
it would need to be done by March 28th.
But if we had a services committee at 6:45, that would be plenty of time.
I will not be here for that services committee or council committee or any committee that night.
Okay, who else, is everyone else here on the 28th?
Yes.
Okay. All right, 6:45 on 3/28.
And then, just for awareness, Mark, you mentioned a couple of meetings on this coming Monday.
Yes, there's a
playground
committee meeting on Monday at
No.
6. Tuesday.
That was 29.
19th. 19th. It's the 19th.
19th. That
would be
It is the 19th, but that's Tuesday.
Thank you.
Okay, it's Tuesday, the 19th.
That's correct, Tuesday the 19th at 6 o'clock.
6
I made
o'clock.
sure not to put it on Monday again.
Yes, because we had economic development. then.
Well, I got something going on Monday, so I gotta figure out what.
In April, I know we have meetings every week, because I will not be in attendance on the week of the 14th.
Did we talk about that? Yep.
Yeah, I confirmed it.
Yep.
Yep. That's the only one I'll miss.
You.
I tried to track down that calendar in my email today, the
Okay.
budget meeting calendar.
Okay.
Would you be able to resend it?
I will.
Thank you. Because the one that I wasn't going to be able to be at, I actually can be at.
Great news.
Yeah.
Okay, I will resend it to all of you, and it's on our, it's upstairs on our bulletin board. I'll get them all filled in on the calendar on the website as well.
Appreciate it.
Great. If there's nothing else, the last item is adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Second. Motion second. All those in favor? Thank you. Thank you, everyone.